Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Survivors, welcome to episode 113 of The Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mark.
Yes, I'm back.
Yay! So glad to have you back.
I was going to say that, I've kind of pretty much been here or almost here all season, but now I'm actually here. So, and not like, kind of phoning it in.
Or coming in the middle of it saying, hey, hold on here, put me in here.
Yeah just just attach this to the episode. Anyway, no, I'm back. Picard is done for the season, and it did wear me out. It's been a rough couple of weeks, I'll just say that. But I'm back, and I thought we were going to do the last 3 episodes of The Walking Dead, and then the stupid coronavirus had to postpone the last episode. Thank you, coronavirus. You're not very courteous.
No.
So anyway, we are covering season 10, episode 14 of The Walking Dead, titled Look at the Flowers. And we don't have anything to feedback for last week, so we can go right into it. So this episode was written by Channing Powell. Now, Channing Powell has had a relationship with The Walking Dead, I think, since season 4, where she was a writer on staff, and then moved up the producer chains, and I think in like seasons 7 and 8, I'm doing that by memory. She was a co-executive producer. And then in season 9, she went to a consulting producer. And this time looks like she only wrote this one episode, because I know she was show running. I don't remember the name of the show, but there was some show on Amazon that she was involved with. So she was show running that. So that's why she's not on this season, but it's good. And you can actually, I think, tell that we had a good writer that has been working with The Walking Dead for years, because I thought this episode was, pretty solid. Directed by Daisy von Schurler-Meyer. And I know she's directed a few episodes in the last several seasons. I didn't get a chance to look her up in IMDb, but I know that she has directed a few. The description: heroes and villains reckon with the aftermath of the Hilltop fire. Meanwhile, Eugene takes a group on a journey to meet Stephanie with the hopes of befriending another civilization. That I couldn't play shock horror for. There's not enough there.
No, it's kind of bland.
All right. Mark, what did you think of this episode?
Well, I gave it 9 out of 10 Beta's new Phantom of the Opera skin mask, because that alpha skin was too white.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And I gave it a 9.123 Carols looking at the flowers.
So is it a 9.3?
It's a 9.3.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And a reference to the whole Beta saying to her, which...
It made me think of that stupid song from 10A, the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I would give this episode a 9.3 as well, actually. Ear nibbles or half moon alphas. And I put that in late, that second one, because nobody gave that one. I thought someone for sure would say Half Moon Alpha, but they didn't. All right, so let's go to some listener ratings. Mark?
Well, Steve from Oklahoma City gives it 9.5 out of 10 kangaroo councils deciding Negan's fate.
And Deanna from Detroit gave it, I rate this episode 9 out of 10. Negan is the new alpha. Bow down. Cry face, cry face.
Glynis from Toronto gives it 8 out of 10. Beta be bonkers.
And LT from NC giving this one a 9 out of 10 smack talking alpha Negans. That's
Nice.
good.
All right, so let's move on to Awesome Sauce.
Well, Steve from Oklahoma City, he gives it Eugene's hopefulness and willing to be foolish, which I do believe.
Yep. Deanna from Detroit says, Negan and Daryl teaming up and killing the Whisperers. Yes, agree.
We may actually do the Awesome Sauce in between my cat meowing in the background. I don't know, listeners, if you can hear that, but he won't shut up. Anyway, Glynis from Toronto says, although it was a ruse, it must have been a rush for Negan to have Daryl get down on his knees before him, mimicking what happened in TWD season 6, episode 16, after such a long time being in prison in the Alexandria jail.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's it for our listener Awesome Sauce. Mark, what do you have?
Well, the first one would be finally seeing the album that Beta was on that we thought from Fear. You know, we finally get that, oh, yeah, that's him. Knowing that he, you know, from what I can tell, had an album called Half Moon, or was it his name? We never got any clarification. But I think it's really still cool that we get that from, something out of Beta.
I think, based on what I saw, that was his name. Like, that was the name he went by, Half Moon. So,
yeah, that's what a lot of people were telling me, that they think that's his actual name.
Yeah.
And my last one would be, well, we got Princess, but, oh no, she's going to be really freaking annoying.
I don't know. I love that actress, though.
Yeah, she's a good actress. It's just, it's funny too, because in my head, when I read the comic book, she didn't have that kind of a voice. She had a kind of a squeaky, peppy kind of voice, not what this girl has.
All right. Well, I guess, yeah, it was, and I'm going to probably maybe try to go into more to this, but it's like Ghost Alpha tormenting Carol. And it's like I kind of have come to grown to love Samantha Morton's portrayal of Alpha. So I keep kind of adding her to my Awesome Sauce, or trying to like say more, because, you know, it's like, I love how creepy she's been acting. Just like, you know, it was fun to see that her, like, our Alpha being kind of like this conscious mind of Carol, like dealing with all her emotions and her grief and her regret and her anguish, like over all her decisions. I just thought that was a really cool play off of, you know, everything that Carol's been going through this whole season. And like I kind of was like, I wanted to kind of preface this, where I've said it before, that it's like, if this happened, if like All Out War was shorter and then we kind of then went into the Whisper Wars years ago, that I think the great, and you know, the way Samantha Morton is, like, how she's whatever, like the way she is doing Alpha, like I feel like it would have like just came off so much better. It's just like, if this happened much sooner than now, because I think people got worn out over just Negan and his whole big, you know, personality, and also it took like 2 or more years to get through that. Yeah. That if we went into the Alpha or the Whisper Wars pretty, you know, quick, then like she's such a great actress, and just like how she's been doing it, I'm appreciating it, and she should give more props. That I almost feel like that would have like played even better, and I think people would be like singing her praises or talking about this season so much better than where we are now. So I love her. She's awesome.
I would agree with that. I think if she had shown up in, say, season 7, instead of Negan, I think people would have stayed on. And
it's just I think I might have been bashed just Alpha and just like, oh gosh, whatever, like this, it's kind of, she's saying stupid things, or we were making fun. It's like, oh, the Boulder.
I didn't like her last season at all. So I'm kind of with you now, but at first I did not like her.
Yeah, I kind of resist her too. I was kind of like, oh, this is just like weird, or like it just seems weird, out of place, or almost kind of like I'm over it. But as this season's gone on, and my rewatches and just watching her, it's like I think she is terrifying and creepy, and like all these wonderful elements of like just a really like the baddie that you want to be like scared of. I just think the time that this is all hitting and all that kind of stuff, it's like almost kind of, I wish that it could have happened much sooner, because I think it would have had more impactful to the series and just, the story and all that stuff. But hey, we're not the ones that call the shots.
Well, I would largely agree with that, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, I think that she was great in this episode, and I have grown, to enjoy the performance, and I didn't at first, but I thought especially she was really good in this episode, except for one odd thing that I will talk about later.
Well, did you notice that her accent was not as thick?
Yeah, I kind of did, but I mean that makes total sense because she wasn't actually Alpha. It was
a hallucination of Alpha.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of hallucinations in this show lately.
Yeah.
Well, and she also talked more than Alpha's ever talked to.
And Carol has had some hallucinations this season.
Yeah.
You remember that ghost episode?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I also thought Ryan Hurst was really good in this episode too. Beta is pretty twisted.
Yeah, finally, it centered around him a little bit, which is really good.
Yeah. That whole ear nibbling scene was awesome. So weird, so deranged, and so good.
I was waiting for a finger nibbling scene from Alpha's head when he put his hand in the actual sack.
Yeah. Oh.
I have one thing here. I'm going to move to the sad sauce, so I'll talk about it later. But two other things I had. Alpha calls, whatever, because she wasn't really Alpha like we were saying, because she could also access, she was Carol. So she was like Carol's mind talking to her hallucination. So she was accessing other things that obviously Alpha didn't know. Like, for example, she called Carol a coos. And I remember because I never heard that word before. And that was a callback to Ed, her original husband in season 1, that awful guy. He used that word. I think actually he didn't use it to talk to her. He called Andrea a coos, which I don't even know what that means. So
Me neither. Yeah, who knows? But you ever notice that, this whole thing between Carol and Alpha, remember in the beginning, Carol had like a buzzed, almost shaved head look?
Yeah.
And now Carol's got the long hair.
Yeah.
And it's like you're saying that it's Carol's voice with Alpha in it, and it's kind of like a reflection of her from how she used to be in some way, and just bringing up all the badness. That's what I was thinking when I was watching that scene over again. I'm like, she's bringing up all this history.
Yeah, and she was being very, it was being very, basically like, inside player of like saying like what you were saying, Brian. It's like just the way she was, like just how she was speaking, Alpha was to Carol. It was like, yeah, that's her mind, and obviously where she's dealing with all her,
Baggage.
Baggage. That that's what I thought was, if anything out of this episode, it was like that exchange, and just that was really, really a big, awesome, bright part of this whole episode.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to bring up is, Dieta mentioned it earlier, but the Negan switcheroo scene, and specifically when Negan said, "Don't threaten me with a good time." I got a kick out of that. That was pretty good. All right, so let's move on to the weak sauce.
You're worthless and weak.
Twisted sister. Anyway.
Well, Steve from Oklahoma City says, the multiple storylines, I usually like this. This time it had my head spinning. And it really didn't do that for me. I could actually keep up. It was actually captured me with every scene that was going on.
Yeah, it can happen. Well, the Dieta from Detroit, she says, the fact nobody has thought about Beta after Alpha's death. Hello, guys, it's not over.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, Mark, what do you have?
Really? Well, I'll agree with one of you guys, but I'm going to let you talk about that. But the one thing that I found weak, no dog. Where's Dog Ben? Come on, man. I want that.
Yeah.
Yes, where is Dog?
Oh, Dog's got a chew toy somewhere in one of Carol's hideouts.
Yeah, afoot somewhere.
He's probably like Picard's dog in Picard. He didn't act well, so they kind
He was
of...
only on for so long.
Yeah.
Is this going to be like Ghost in Game of Thrones, where it's like dog will just be there, and if Daryl does not go pet the dog after like some battle, be like, no.
No, he found Merle's hand, and he's chewing on that.
Oh God.
I suppose I should have thrown it to you, Kyle, because I didn't realize that you were reacting to Kyle's thing, but...
Yeah, so like my weak sauce, it's kind of like Carol getting stuck under the boat, like hanging thing. That's kind of what I call it, whatever that structure was at her hideout. I mean, I kind of felt like I had to be a little bit nitpicky here, just because of how did you get that boat up there to begin with? It's like, yeah, I was kind of like, I imagined that you would have had a ladder or like something there in this, like, like shed or whatever it was, it's just... It was convenient that, she reached for it, it fell, and then she got trapped.
Yeah, that whole thing I found confusing. Like, at first, I don't know if I just missed it on the first two views, but like I was like, how did she get here?
Yeah.
But I caught it on this last view. But still, I agree with you. Where did the boat come from, and how did it get there?
Yeah.
So...
There was no scene. Why?
Right. Like, but she obviously went there because even Alpha was saying, like, so she was talking about, like, her going on the boat on the ocean side to get away. But then you were thinking about me too much, and it just drove you back. Like, you just came back. And it was like, she knew about this. So it's like, how did you get up there? Or you just knew that, it had been up there. And I don't know. It was kind of like, whatever.
I had a couple things to mention about I called him the ear nibbly. So the one whisperer that...
The red shirt?
Well, pretty much. First of all, I started thinking about it. It's like, how did he get a haircut? Whereas, Beta's what he is. But then it's like, okay, well, Alpha, obviously she's had some way of cutting her hair because she has no hair. So, but it just looked funny comparing him to Beta. Beta's got, this long hair, probably hasn't been cut in 10 years. And this dude looks like he just went to the barbershop, something that we can't do right now, but
right.
Anyway. But the other thing is, I didn't understand. It's like, okay, so Beta's like pushing him into Alpha. Why didn't he like try to run away? And even after he gets nibbled on, he doesn't run away. He stays with a Beta. So it's like, what are you doing? Anyway, he wasn't too smart, that guy.
No.
One thing that Carol said, I want to be alone to Alpha. And I'm like, alone from your mind? That wasn't, that was a weird line. But that was more weak sauce to Carol herself for just thinking that she could get away from Alpha. I noticed, I think they must have cut some of the budget because some of the walkers look like I know they've always used masks, but I find some of the walkers that we see like more camera attention to look more like they're wearing masks, whereas they didn't really seem to be like that before. When I say wearing masks, obviously not whisperer masks, I mean like masks, but they just look like they're wearing these like things that don't look all that convincing to me. Like there were a few. The one that I wanted to highlight is the walker that came after Carol. When I watched that, and on the 3 times that I've watched this episode, just looking at him, his face, it just didn't look in any way real. It just looked like he was wearing a zombie mask. So,
well, Greg Nicotero needs to go back out there and do some quality control with all the effects while he's not directing.
And busy dealing with his creep show. So, yeah. In the cold open, there was something I wanted to point out, and I've got a picture in the notes here. So there's a scene where, we see Alpha's head get put on the pike, and Carol was, looking at it, and then she turns away and she's, talking to Negan, and Carol's in the foreground, and the pole, the pike with Alpha's head is kind of, a few feet behind her. And then we see trees that are in the background, but you look at Alpha's head, and it's in this, I don't know how well the screen capture I did shows it, but her head is really blurry, and she's blurrier than the rest of the pike that she's on. And I noticed this right away. It's like, that doesn't look real to me. It looked kind of a cheesy special effect.
Yeah, or they just quickly did it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if you go back and look at it, you'll see it just doesn't look all that convincing to me. So, all right. Well, that's it for our weak sauce. Now it's time for what sauce?
What?
And we didn't get any what sauces from our listeners this week. So, Mark, looks like you have a what sauce.
Yeah, what is up with the crazy people on this show over the years? Morgan goes nuts. The governor was nuts. Now we get the princess. The city was set up like something out of I Am Legend, but interactive with the Zeds and positions. She's been alone for like a little over a year. I get it, but that was a little bit too fast to go bonkers in my mind.
But you're talking about what, the princess?
Yeah.
Going? Well, but we don't even know that though. At this point, we thought that they're meeting someone like our group, like King Ezekiel and Eugene and Kamiko. That's like they're going to go meet this supposed Stephanie.
Yeah.
Right. But they have no idea who she is. She just pops up. So
Right.
We don't know that she's been alone for the year. I thought the Zeds being all like in positions. I love the ones like they were like having dinner, and there's like the one that was holding a margarita glass or whatever. Like, yeah, it's like that was cool, but I don't think we know that she's the only one that's been there, at least at this point.
True.
That seems like a comic spilling over to TV.
Me thinking of the comic, because I remembered that whole storyline too well.
Yeah. So I've got to say,
No,
Shame on Mark.
No showcase showdown for you.
Yeah, no showcase. So, Kyle, what about you?
Oh, I was like, why again did the Whisperer like lackeys think that Negan was the new Alpha? It's like, did they know that he killed her?
Oh yeah, well they even said it.
That's what I wasn't for sure. And if I obviously didn't catch it because then I was like, was that okay for him to do? And like, could anybody do that? It's like, they weren't the same ones that were with Beta that I.
No, they weren't.
Not that, yeah. So I was like, what? Like then why couldn't anybody just knock her off and be like, hey, I'm the new Alpha? And it's like, okay, cool, done. Like I don't know. It seemed really weird. That was like, especially someone new like Negan, maybe just because that he had more contact, I guess, with Alpha. But it just seems that seemed a very weird, like, break of their structure. I don't know. It seems like that they had a very like, oh, these are the important people. Beta, I mean, obviously Alpha, Gamma, Beta, blah blah blah, whatever other Greek alphabet thing you want to put. That it's like, okay, that's a chain of command. That is just like, oh, someone just knocks off the top, and it's like, I mean, what is like the Chronicles of Riddick? It's like, oh, you killed the Grand Marshal. It's like you are like now the leader of all the Underverse. It's like, what? So. Yeah. I just didn't get it. Like,
yeah,
that's all.
Okay. I referred to something earlier about Alpha and the portrayal. I thought like everything was great except for one thing. Well, here's that except. I noticed when, I guess it was Carol that put Alpha's head on the pike, right? It was Carol that did it, not Negan. It doesn't really matter who it was, but I think it was Carol. Anyway.
Yeah, it was.
Yep. When Carol puts Alpha's head on the pike, Alpha seemed to react to being put on the pike. It looked like she had an emotional reaction to it. And I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think that would actually happen. And I don't think the zombies have emotions. They're just, so, but she had this look on her face like, what? Huh? Oh, I don't want to be here. And then, then she kind of turned into a regular zombie head. But it just was.
I'll have to go check that out because I did not catch that.
Yeah, it was about like a second and a half or something, but it was enough that I noticed it. So what was the deal with the walkers in the cages? Like, who was that? And for that matter, where were they? Like, how far? Because we know that they went 300 miles, which they make it seem like they did it in 2 days, which we know is not possible. So, like, how far along were they when they saw those walkers in the cages? Because it just seemed to be a story point that just kind of got dropped. Because we see these walkers in the cages, and then they move on, and there's nothing that really comes of it after that.
Yeah. Like, now my question was because we kind of saw something similar in Fear, but they had like a pigeon that was just like tied down, I guess. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so, but is someone, because I mean, obviously the pigeon's not going to live forever. So
right,
it's like,
exactly.
You're going to just come back and replace it. Like, I was like, is it just to kind of maybe, kind of like deflect walkers or something? I don't know.
Unless it's a zombie bird, a zombie pigeon.
Well, if you want to, we can get to the King Ezekiel's horse.
I was going to say. Yeah, so you mentioned the dioramas, and at least that's what they called them in Talking Dead. And I just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. It was kind of cute, but at the same time, I don't get it because if Princess set all those up, I don't know why she did it. I don't know what the point of it was. So
we'll find out.
Anyway, okay. Well, she's a princess, so maybe she just has to have her tea parties or whatever.
Well, she got the king there.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Okay, so maybe the princess will marry the king.
Yeah. Well, you got time frame. Clock is ticking.
Yeah, he's got that cancer thing too. I don't know.
All right, it's time for our sad or aw sauce.
Well, LT from NC says, seeing Jerry telling Ezekiel goodbye was a tearjerker for me. And yeah, seeing King E have to put his horse down was rough.
All right.
And that was mine too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're all going to be somewhat pretty much doing the same thing because that really kind of was the only sad thing.
It was.
It was, yeah.
So I guess a little nick got, or a little bite got taken out of the. So I guess for a horse, I guess we wouldn't get a zombie horse. Not in this for zombie show.
No.
It might happen in, say, Z Nation or something. I don't know, but
Resident Evil or something. Yeah.
Sure. But I guess that little bite is enough to kill a horse, but obviously wouldn't turn it to
right.
No.
Well, that's like I was trying to find it in my notes, but I was like, we've never seen anything outside of humans of what happens when you are a zombie bite. And so it's like we've always seen horses and other animals basically be eaten, but we never saw you get bit, whatever, and you get sick. So it's like I kind of get that maybe it's like, yeah, it's a bite, so it's like it could get infected, and then obviously it's like who knows, cause problems, and it just kills them. But I kind of again to where I just didn't understand it because we've never seen it before.
Right.
That it was just like, oh, well, obviously this must be a thing because it's happened before, but we've never seen it, but they must have. And then it's just like, oh, okay, I have to kill the horse now because it's just going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus you can't really,
chop anything off it.
Right.
Right.
I'll cut off the bad stuff. We could eat the rest. Like Daryl said in season 1.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a season. That sounds like Daryl with the deer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. We've always seen them get eaten. So this is first thing. We've seen horses. We've seen dogs.
Yeah.
We've never seen, and we've
pigs.
seen,
well, I guess
we've seen
never.
pigs, sure. And we've seen Shiva. We've never seen a domestic cat in this whole show.
Yes, we have. Fear.
Oh, in Fear. Yes, you're right. We have seen it in Fear.
What was the name? It was Stinky or something? I don't know. I forgot.
Skidmark.
Skidmark. There you go.
Yeah.
And it was something to that effect.
Stinky, yeah.
Yeah, that's too funny.
All right. Well, that's it for our sad sauce. So let's move on to our feedback section.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
Okay, so we did get one voicemail from Steve.
Hello, Walking Dead Talk Through. This is Steve. This is for Look at the Flowers. Really like this episode. Much, much better than last week's episode. Little concern though that what is it with Carol? Every time something big happens, she needs to be alone again, and then she goes off on her little adventure. So that, I don't know, it was cool seeing her with the whole visions of Alpha and stuff. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, man, haven't we seen this before? We've now seen this in several different episodes. I love the misdirect with Negan and the Whisperers, and when he was with Daryl there. I almost for a moment thought that Negan was actually going to throw in with the Whisperers and maybe do something. As much as I know Daryl's protected, but it was really cool. The whole scene was really fun to watch. I love Negan as he keeps calling himself the Alpha. I thought that was pretty funny. And then when the shotgun misfires on the second barrel was really, really good. Also, finally, I'll wrap up with this. I loved I don't know if this character is supposed to be the Stephanie girl that Eugene was coming to see, or if she's somewhere else. But I absolutely loved the whole I Am Legend thing with the zombies, where instead of having mannequins set up around the city, she's got zombies set up around the city in different little tableaus and scenes. So can't wait to hear what you guys thought. Talk to you later.
Oh, thanks, Steve, for your voicemail. Good to hear from you. And I know you are a regular contributor to this. And of course, Mark's co-host on Panels of Pixels. And to you, I will just say, it's time to change your smoke detector battery.
I was about to ask, is he playing basketball?
No, that is a pet peeve of mine. It keeps me up at night if my smoke detector does that. Change your GD battery, please.
I heard it too whenever we podcast. He doesn't have a tall enough ladder to get to it in his place. So I usually edit it out.
I mean, if you can like get it at if he knows when it's going to happen, he can make sure he's not talking when the thing
time it right. Nah, it works out. I edit it out.
That's too funny.
Anyway, Steve, we're friends, so I gotta jab a friend a little bit, poke him. Time to change your smoke detector battery.
Yeah.
All right. Besides that, anybody else have anything you wanted to say about his voicemail?
Yeah, just quick. I was like, I never questioned Negan, like with the Whisperers and Daryl. I think over the from earlier in the episode and stuff like that, and just like what we knew of the deal with Carol, and then just him even talking about, he's like, or actually even be seeing Negan, how kind of uncomfortable he was around Alpha whenever she was doing some of her kind of crazy things. That it's like that scene, I was kind of like, well, yeah, I get it. And I kind of sure Negan is Negan. And he's like, okay, this is my only chance in the world that I'm going to get Daryl to kneel. That he was going to take the opportunity, but that he was like, hey, this is how, like, I'm going to get us out of this, to kind of prove to him again, to Daryl, that it's like, hey, I'm on your side. Like, I'm a changed man. So I don't know. That's also the princess. Like, I did love that part of like seeing all the walkers being all like in these like dressed. It's kind of like, I've seen other people say it online. It's like, it was like these cosplay walkers. So it was like, maybe Princess was just like that was the last Comic-Con before the end of the world happened.
Yeah.
So she's like, she scattered to the wind, and it's like, hey, she's still a cosplayer. It's like geeks will be geeks, and they inherit the earth.
There definitely wasn't a lot of social distancing going on with those walkers. It is a crazy time that we live in.
Yes,
definitely. Now they could fine you. By May, they will fine you to like I think it's like $400, $500.
Yeah, I think ours was $500. Warning: 500 jail.
Really? Jail?
Yep.
Wow.
They'll arrest you.
Like, how does that work? Like if it's someone and they
or you live in the same house, it's your sibling, it's your.
That's the thing. They asked if how are the police gonna know who they warned and then who's like doing it again and like whatever, and they kind of just threw it up there as being like, just don't push it. So it's like,
right.
Like if you're out playing basketball whenever the whole city's on the lockdown, it's like, they'll come up and warn you. But I guess if somehow they know, and maybe it's the same cop in the same beat, that's just like, dude, you're the same one. But then it's like, everybody lost their job. So how are you going to collect $500?
Exactly. We're going to take it out of that stimulus check we give you.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
No, my suggestion to people was, and I said it earlier, I said, you should get a staff like Morgan had, but make it 6 feet long, so that way you could use it to show the distance. Not the quarter staff like he had when it broke that time.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to our next bit of feedback.
And that would be from Dieta from Detroit. And she says, "We got a glimpse of the old Negan and his monologues when he was faking like he was going to take Daryl out. Almost had me convinced he was back." The conversation between Daryl and Negan afterwards, discussing what he felt when pretending to be a whisperer when Daryl saying, "We are not friends," was hilarious. And I do agree with that too. I still believe Carol is a badass, or badass with the Z's that she's got. I hate that she continues to struggle with losing people close to her. Then she always wants to run off by herself. Just don't understand why it affects her so hard. Michonne lost Rick and Carl. Maggie lost Glenn. Daryl lost Merle. Everybody has lost someone, but they have figured out how to move on, but Carol just continues to let it bring her down, running off and isolating herself. Glad she had a change of heart this time and goes back to Alexandria after arguing with the ghost of Alpha. And he's crying, laughing emojis, crying, laughing emojis. King Ezekiel, Yumiko, and Eugene going to meet his date. What city did they go to? I missed it. I left with the king at the doll zombies arranged in character. 2 smiling, crying emojis. That was definitely different. Overall, good episode.
And based on what was said in the previous episode with Eugene, that would be Charleston, West Virginia, which to me, I don't know if it has that impressive of a skyline. So, but I think probably if I looked at it, it would be. But I used to live in Charleston for about a year and a half in 2002, 2003. So actually, 2002, 2003, 2004. So about a year and a half total. But anyway, because I think they mentioned the Kanawha River, and the Kanawha River is the city off of the Kanawha River is Charleston. So it's not a big town by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's the biggest in West Virginia, but like maybe 150,000 metro. So it's not huge. Anyway, but yeah, that's where supposedly they were going to, assuming that this is the city that they're going to, and they're not going to another city. So
and just using that as a as the skyline.
Or they got lost.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, next is Glynis from Toronto, and she says, "I must have crossed Daryl's mind that the freebie he got from Negan in The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 16, in that lineup, when he tried to defend Rosita, was going to be canceled out, and Daryl would now pay for being indirectly responsible for Glenn's death." That's a lot. Killing Alpha has increased the danger of Beta with his meltdown, and the Whisperers are even more of the threat than they were before. Yep. At last, Carol's mental tussle sort of turned out okay with her decision at the end to return to Alexandria, better than Beta's decision of dealing with his loss. And yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. That was like, because Negan and Daryl, obviously, like Negan's trying to like basically convince Daryl. It's like, no, I was doing this for your girlfriend, Carol. It's like that. I'm not a bad person, blah, blah, blah. But then in the end, they're like still like waiting for Carol. And then Daryl's just kind of like, I'm going. Cause I think he does, like, he knows Carol obviously better than probably anybody. And then he knew it's like, when she's ready to come home, she's going to come home. And so I love that scene where she then does show up at the gates of Alexandria, and he opens it up and it's just like, hey, how are you doing? So I don't know. I thought that was kind of, that's just, that was Daryl. He just knew. He's like, we don't need to be waiting here for her. It's like, she'll come home when she's ready. All right, she continues on. With Carol returning to Alexandria, I wonder if it's in time to stop the lynch mob after Negan, since she can now collaborate Negan's story, since only Daryl opened the gate. Where was Negan? Thrown back in jail, maybe, in spite of killing Alpha, or on Carol's order? Good question, because we never saw Negan again after that scene. I don't know. Do you think he's in jail still? or did they put him in jail, or he just didn't? Did he come back with Daryl?
I don't know.
It's just there wasn't anything that would have.
I just hope they don't do what they did with the comic where he just leaves and he just disappears. Yeah, that to me is like, yeah.
Like if he's gonna leave, like have some kind of like show off, like even if it's not a great one, just being like, okay, I'm out of here, but not just like we'll never see him again.
Yeah, just disappear or something. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Oh, she continues on. Similar parallel comparisons of scenic scene of Rick's ride into Atlanta, The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 1, and Eugene. Yumiko and Ezekiel's ride into the city in The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 14. And again, it didn't turn out well for a horse in both instances.
True. That is true.
Why are the horses such the...
Yeah, well, they don't want to give them transportation, I guess. You gotta walk. It's called The Walking Dead.
And then in The New Stranger that Eugene and company meet on the entrance to the city sure demonstrates her artsy side cannot be smothered even in the apocalypse by all those Walker art pieces. Beta is a sinister crazy while this person is an eccentric type of crazy. We'll see if she's a danger or not. I enjoyed Ezekiel's laughter after seeing those Walker posed and stage, although it did start to sound a little crazed toward the end. Yeah. I think that at least the part I got from Ezekiel, like seeing those walkers and like, he does just start laughing. I think it just shows that after the talk with Yumiko and like how, like she even says to him basically like her pep talk is just like, I don't like, who would care about my personal, I don't know, causes or whatever. It's just like, it's just like all hope. We're looking for the future and this and that. And I think she even said something about like you're the man who built the kingdom in the apocalypse. It's just like, she's looking for like, hey, what do we have to lose? I guess basically it's just like, we're going to continue living, look for hope, like, just go into the unknown, this and that. But I think Ezekiel facing death because there's no way to cure cancer in this new, world that they're in.
Well,
it's
not
treatable, probably.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it's untreatable for them. Now, whether or not it's untreatable for wherever they're going, is another story. Probably untreatable, but you never know.
Right, but when you are like, if you are them in this world, there is no of that kind of hope. That's a terminal like illness because there's not like, oh, everybody has a hospital that has like all the, things that could, do that kind of thing or deal with those kind of deals. That's almost kind of like, oh, but that is basically you're going to die. There is no hope. Like,
yeah,
the whole old world is gone. The new world is here. And that's not even an option anymore.
Yeah. What I just gave you was a little bit of Dumb and Dumber hope.
Yeah.
You're telling me there is a chance?
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, Ezekiel, doesn't look like he's gonna have much to live, and if he survives into the next season or whatever, is, I would say, highly doubtful. But it's all it's not, his probability of surviving is not zero at this point. It's close to zero, but it's not zero.
Right. But I think on his, like, on what he is thinking, and that's what I feel like that he was portraying. It's like after having this moment of like hope, let's keep going, walking in and seeing, basically it's like you dressed up walkers in like outfits and like
right,
walking up in that car and there's like police walker giving the car a ticket. I think he was just like, he just lost it. He's just like, okay, this world is just so messed up and then hilarious that, I don't know. It was good to see him just like, kind of like, just look at the absurdity of what's going on and then his own situation. it was kind of like him giving a release. So whether or not that's a good thing for him or he just is really losing it, it just, I don't know. I loved that whole scene. His psyche of his own self of what is going forward. I felt like he was giving up. He had to kill his horse. And then, yes, he gets this little, pep talk from Yuko, like, hey, I like basically saying, I look at you as like being a very strong leader, like whatever, like something to move forward with in this wonderful, this crazy world. Then him seeing that and just being like, whatever, I give up. Like, I don't know, I give up. Or like, it's just like, this world is insane. And so it's like, nothing matters. So I don't know. I liked it. I don't know.
All right. Next is LT from NC. He has a few things here. He says, we get some good nuggets this week, and for sure they picked it up from last week. Yeah, last week I didn't really care for. Not perfect, but it was getting back to the higher levels of earlier in the season. Well, I saw leaving Alpha's head on a spike as a bad idea. It was rather satisfying to see it there. The whole inner head monologue with Carol and Alpha, I liked it okay, but it just seemed to go on a little long for my taste. Props to Samantha Morton for this. Her swan song performance as Alpha, but it just seemed to go on and on. I did love the Negan and Daryl scenes. Daryl just wanted to kill him, and Negan was trying to convince him that he wasn't the evil traitor. You can tell that JDM and Norman are real-life friends because you can't get that level of chemistry as antagonists without being close on one level or another. Plus, I just love the shotgun speech when the Wandering Whisperers found Negan and Daryl at the Pikes. Classic Negan banter. Yes, it was, actually. Okay, shouldn't the Whisperers know by now that they should keep their comments to themselves where Beta is concerned? I liked and disliked that scene where Mr. Good Idea got his ear gnawed off by Pikehead Alpha. What in the blue hell did they use for the sound effect on that? Beef jerky and celery? The sound squeaked. Squicked me? It says squicked me. I don't know if that's supposed to be squeaked or something else, but just so you know, I'll say it squicked me out more than the practical effect. Now we know more about our boy Beta. I feel so much better seeing that the album cover from Fear was indeed an Easter egg for Beta's backstory. The fact that Beta is now going all Two-Face with half of Alpha's face is both fascinating and horrifying. It was cool to see Princess on Eugene's Apocalypse Tinder date, but I want to know where he got the saw or how she still has ammo. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, definitely. That was a pretty badass gun that she had there too. That's what LT was talking about. I don't know what the saw is though. I don't know what type of gun that is. I'm sure LT will go elaborate later on.
All right, so that's it for our listener feedback. So Kyle, we'll throw it to you. What do you have for your notes?
I mean, like, just Negan being Negan always. Like, I just loved, as we know what the Whisperer group is. You know, it's like they're quiet, they whisper, or like, you know, as long as they're not like in the middle of a bunch of walkers or like their own people, they've always been very quiet. But then the you know, lackeys were like, oh, here he's the new alpha, and then Negan's just going on this huge rant about like, I don't know. It just, I feel like when Negan obviously is getting the spotlight, like his voice just gets louder and louder, and then there's just more words and more words and more words. And I'm like, how is that not the opposite of what the Whisperers are? And they're like, you're the new alpha. And he's like, alrighty then, I'm going to just talk for another 30 minutes saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I loved it. That scene, Negan seriously is hilarious. Anyways, the only other thing was like surprisingly, I don't have much like even about Beta. I mean, it was fun to see kind of the fear crossover happen of like, we kind of saw that, before and everybody speculated and this and that to finally getting that answer. And, it's just like, it's kind of like with Alpha's gone. It's like, I just don't care much about him anymore. I don't know. Alpha was the big baddie, and she was terrifying. Beta kind of is too, but then it's just like, I don't know, like, it's almost kind of like I'm just ready for this chapter end and just get rid of him and just like let's move forward because it's kind of like whatever, like great. And I mentioned this before. It's kind of like, it's like, was that his hideout? It's like because it was like some hotel. There was like a guitar, obviously a whole bunch of like records. Again, they seem to find batteries out of nowhere. It's like he goes and plays his record, his record, and surprisingly has a car battery to hook that record player up to, which I don't even think that could work. Isn't that kind of the wrong like polarity, or I don't know, like too much power to like run
wrong voltage, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's DC and yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I found a car battery that seemed to be laying everywhere, and then okay, I'm going to play my, record. And I mean,
unless they had an inverter around somewhere and
which in this universe, I don't know. I guess those are a dime a dozen.
well.
Yeah, but I mean, it like that's the other part too. Is like he goes like he took Alpha's head, used the red shirt to force him to get bit, and then he like walks to this place. Like, why was he walking there? What was he doing? He had his lackey behind him and ends up basically killing him so that other walkers could eat him to find this place that happened to have a poster from one of his concerts or something. And then, had the note, had all his records, had a guitar, like still liquor, it's like, that's the thing that kind of threw me off. I just didn't understand. It's like, is this his hideout? Like Carol's hideout that she was going to? Or was this like, he just, like Alpha died and he was so distraught that he just started walking endlessly and then just came upon this almost like Fear the Walking Dead Western town, that like just happened to have, right. It happened to have all the things that made him do his thing. And, like I'm calling the walkers, which kind of looked like him standing on that like balcony, like, oh, I'm a famous person and these are all my fans, and like, and of course then he gets a herd, which are just basically his fans, per se. Like that's kind of how I took it. So yeah, it's, and then the note with the like these two eyes see the truth, and like that's why I was like, okay, this isn't his place, because why would he write that note and then for him to go find it and look at it and they'll be like, oh, and then in the end he's all like, yes, my eyes are open now, I see the truth, blah blah blah. So I don't know, that I kind of gotten to a point where it's like, okay, I'm just ready for this story to end.
I have a fan theory about that. Maybe since he was popular in those areas, he actually played that small little dive bar. And he just knew where it was, but he was still in grieving mode of Alpha, and he just happened to wander in it, so he knew enough to walk into it, but then didn't realize, oh, darn, my poster's there, they have my records, I'm just gonna go all rock star and just throw this guitar around.
Yeah.
And just throw a tantrum.
Yeah. That's, it's kind of, again, that's like the only kind of issue that I've had with like Fear, and like, it's like they just throw this stuff at you with zero kind of background, whatever, and for me to have to sit there and just like have to basically in my own mind make it work just for that fact. So it's like, not to say that we should have seen this before, it just it's kind of like, okay, hey, it's like, oh, like there's a nuclear reactor that's going to explode, and we have half of a airplane, like on Fear. But yeah, let's
come back to that.
let's all come together and like rebuild an airplane and then get over a mountain that somehow we crossed before.
Kyle.
Sorry.
Don't cross the streams.
This apocalypse that we're having is stressing me out.
Yes.
Yes,
It's,
definitely.
I've been kind of having a meltdown here, so as you guys know.
All right. Well, anyways, that's all I have to say. Is just I'm kind of done with beta at this point.
I'm not.
Well, that may come soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
Of course, it may happen in the season finale, which we'll hear or watch post-apocalypse of our apocalypse. You know.
Well, I have to say this is the most we've ever seen of Beta at all. And that's including the comics. In the comics, he was not there all the time. And he was just dispatched easily. And when they gave out his celebrity, I should say, it was like a really disappointing end to that character. Be like, wait a minute, you built this up as a Mr. Creepy. Everybody sort of liked him, and then that's how he goes. I'm hoping that they do something monumentous with it, something really cool. If they do him away.
Then like we'll see. Then that's a very interesting, come through from the comic version. Just someone that's just like, I haven't been this far at all in the comic, so I'm just going off the TV part of it, and it's kind of like, oh, Alpha's gone, so it's kind of like, let's just move on. But
yeah.
And I guess just to kind of add, because we've been podcasting about an apocalyptic zombie show, but it's kind of now that we're like all living through this, something that we've only basically watched on TV or in movies.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I saw this tweet today that I feel like kind of sums up a little bit of how some of us are feeling, and it was from Fortune Feimster, who's a comedian. And I know she's a huge fan of The Walking Dead. And she just, like, today was like, right, a couple ran up behind us while we were walking in our neighborhood as if they had no clue about standing 6 feet apart during a pandemic. I legit felt like they were zombies and reached for a non-existent samurai sword behind me as if they were on The Walking Dead. How's your day? And it's true, because literally now it's like turned into going to the grocery store or just even going out, that once me and my husband, like, we get home, like, if we had gloves on, it's like, okay, we got to disinfect our gloves. It's like groceries, we're wiping all our groceries down, to like just disinfect everything. And it's like, it's kind of a weird thing that we do this for our fun, like podcasting about this zombie apocalypse, but yet we're living in kind of this new reality that.
Yeah. And like we don't know. I mean, there's, depending on how long this can go, this may end up bringing the apocalypse to us, not to get, too scary about it. But I mean, if you think about it, like this actual virus it's not like the zombie virus or whatever that it is, where it literally spreads like wildfire. I mean, it is going very fast, but we still only even have 1 million people that are at least documented infected. There's probably a lot more than that, but the point I'm bringing up is, depending, like, if this way that we're living now and all this social distancing and all that stuff, if this goes on for months, the economy could collapse.
Oh, big time. And it's not just our economy, it's the world economy.
The world economy, because this is happening all over the place. So
yeah,
it is definitely a concern of mine, and I think
it's more like this stand.
This is the funny thing with me personally. I work from home. I started a new job where I work from home 100% of the time this past October. So I've been doing it roughly 6 months. So from a day to day, it's not that big of a difference to me. But the fact that you can't really go outside, you can't really do much of anything, and it's getting me. down,
It's
and
just dull.
I'm
Yeah.
not sleeping. I'm I've had mood swings, and I've had what seemed like a little bit of a breakdown at one point. Doing inappropriate stuff. I don't know. It's been
yeah. It's like it has. It's a lot of new stress that I don't think any of us really ever thought that was ever going to happen. You
just gotta roll with it.
I'll just say, because I know a lot of you guys listen. Like our last Picard episode, when I was recording with Ruthie, there were several times during the episode that I was crying. I just the stress and everything else I was going with, and these guys kind of know some of that, pretty much all of it. I just broke down a couple of times, and I feel better now. I know a couple people asked me if I was okay. I'm better now, but I don't know. This just a crazy time, and I think it's, especially since I haven't really been on a full episode. I just wanted to. There's nothing like this time, and I just hope that it's going to be over soon, because it's just, I don't know.
Oh, definitely.
If we have to go like 6 months or a year like this, I just can't imagine.
It's going to be that long.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be that long, but it's going to be, well, we'll see. Otherwise, we're all going to be King Ezekiel laughing at dressed up walkers. And
yeah. And also the cool thing is that you listeners provide us a form to entertain you. And this actually entertains us by entertaining you by doing the podcast.
Yeah.
And that's what I said on mine. It allows us to do something, be creative, actually reach out, do Zoom calls, because that's how we actually do our podcast.
Yeah.
And I just have fun with it. And it actually takes things off your mind for what's going on.
Yeah. So this is a good time to announce what we're going to do next week for I'll call it the pseudo finale, because this wasn't supposed to be the finale. It was supposed to be the penultimate episode, but, with the crazy times that we have, what we've decided to do is next Tuesday night at, I guess we'll do it at 9 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to do something we've never done before, and that is open up our recording to a live audience. So we do the big thing these days is Zoom. We've been using Zoom for 2 years now. We're ahead of the curve. So we are going to open up our live recording to you guys. So we'll have the information in the blog post, and we'll post it on the Facebook group. So hopefully you guys will come out, and we'll just have you guys, listening in. But if we get some stuff in the chat, we'll bring it up, and then maybe after we're done, we'll kind of open it up. So, but anyway, we wanted to announce that. We just literally decided it 2 minutes ago, but I wanted to bring it up, and also to say I'm glad to be back with the podcast. So I just couldn't do it on those Picard episodes were killing me. Like literally our last episode was a 4-hour, 20-minute recording that I ended up chopping out an hour and 20 minutes, which is like roughly an episode of this podcast normally. So
well, we're glad that you're back. So.
I'm glad to be back. Just some notes that I had. The flashback cold open, we finally see Carol, let out Negan. That kind of went down the way that I thought it would. It was very clear that Carol's support was contingent upon a quick dispatching of Alpha, which obviously did not happen. And I forgot that she had long hair like that. So when we see her with this, long, luxurious hair, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. She had long hair. And which she still does, but she's not wearing it the same way, so it's not as obvious. Then the cold open, when it comes to the present day, you could also see that support was pulled back because he took too long. And quite honestly, he did take too long. Like, a lot of people died, and Hilltop is no more. Like, the entire settlement was basically destroyed. So, I mean, yes, he got Alpha, and he does deserve, kudos for that, but it was a really big cost that he waited as long as he did. Eugene, I his reluctance to tell them, like, it's like, well, when was he going to tell them?
Right.
And I wondered why Ezekiel decided to step up to defend Eugene, because it seemed like everybody was ganging up on him. But why do you think Ezekiel stood up and defended him?
Ezekiel wanted to go and get out of there because he thinks all these people are crazy.
Yeah. No, I think Ezekiel, again, is the king. I think he
saw something in Eugene, I think. I really honestly think that. I think he felt like if Eugene is wanting to do this and it's for the good, then we should try it. And if you think about it, King Ezekiel hasn't really been like a king in a while, hasn't really shown any much leadership.
No, right. But he also has been always kind of at least I feel like a mediator.
Yeah.
Like he's kind of like devil's advocate. It's like, oh, but I'm like, I kind of want to, like, plus knowing that Eugene is not just some idiot. He's a brilliant person. Like, they all know that. He deals with all their, setting up their systems or gadgets or, like, the science part of it, that, it's kind of like, I brought it up, last episode, the episode before, just saw like, okay, why aren't Rosita and them asking him, like, well, who are these people? Like, who are you talking to? Like, what's going on? And they're just like, oh, yeah. Oh, you have a girlfriend on the radio? Well, then go get her.
I'm surprised they didn't start chanting, Eugene's got a girlfriend. Eugene's got...
Yeah.
But they were never asking the questions that, like, everybody here at the scene was like, what is this, a new new place, new civilization, blah blah blah. And then it's like, finally you were asking all the questions I would have asked from day one.
Yeah.
So
I had a couple of notes about Magna and Yumiko, so I'll start with the way that Jerry kind of greeted Magna when she shows up. Like, was it just the trauma of the caves and the mine or whatever that made him react that way? Because I didn't really think that Jerry and Magna had any kind of friendship going on, but he seemed very happy to see her.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I thought that was genuine, and I think they knew each other, because you have to think about it. She showed up at the time when they were having all that stuff going on, and then her and Yumiko became integrals, as well as Luke.
Right.
And Connie and the rest of them. I'm still wondering where Connie is, though.
Yeah, and Luke too.
Yeah.
For that matter.
Yeah. But
yeah. I think if anything, it's just he, like, really, well, because of what they went through, and he tried. I mean, hell, he was the one that was, like, holding up half the cave to try to get everybody out, and then I'm sure that weighed on his
conscience,
mind to be like, could I have done more? It's like, we just lost 2 people, and then her showing up, it was like, oh my gosh, you're alive.
Well, I have a feeling when it comes to Connie, we're going to wait an eternity to see her. And if you don't understand what that is, she's in the Eternals in Marvel movie. So I had to say that. The other thing with that is, I thought it was odd that they're at some emergency place and Magna likes it there. Like, she talks about, like, stability and stuff like that. If they were at Hilltop, right, I could have bought that. I almost put this in my nose because I thought it was just a strange thing to say, because they can't, like, have suddenly decided to stay there, because they just all seem to be, like, flopped there, like Flophouse. Yeah. Like, why aren't they all going to Alexandria? I didn't understand that either. You'd think that they would just, gather themselves and head out to Alexandria, because obviously things are still, as far as they know anyway, safe there. And of course they are, because we see Daryl and Carol arrive. But yeah, that was the thing. I had some trouble buying that. So that's it for me. What about you, Mark?
Well, I have a bunch of stuff. Well, the next episode is called The Tower. So this is going to be a little bit spoilery, a little bit comparison, but I have my own predictions as they were.
Is it a dark tower?
Yeah, it's the Eye of Sauron that we're going to see soon here. That was a really big issue. And Father Gabriel died in that issue on the water tower after falling from it, and because his leg got hooked and he falls down and he's upside down, and then Beta does something where he gets the walkers to eat him. So I believe, I don't think it's going to be Father Gabriel. I believe that it might be Aaron that might get that comic death, but I could be wrong.
Oh, I hope not.
And the reason why he would go up there is because we see at the very end, was it the end or was it the coming attractions? Shows Alden and Aaron, and they're in Alexandria and it's being overtaken. You could see the actual water tower in the distance. And I think somehow Aaron has to get there, and he's trying to signal or get in touch with anybody who's nearby who has a walkie or something, so that way he could, contact everybody.
I tend to think, I think you're barking up the right tree, but I think you're doing it with the wrong
person.
I think Alden has, more chance to buy it this coming episode.
Although Aaron also is a big part of their budget, having to blue screen, unless I don't know how they're giving him the hook arm,
that's an actual prosthetic piece that they put on.
Like flip it over.
Yeah, they flip it over his hand. He leaves the show, he wants to take that home.
Yeah.
He said that to me.
So I think that he's going to be okay. You could be right. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them buys it, but I tend to think it won't be Ross Marquand. I mean, he's a fan favorite, I think, at this point. And I think if you're gonna take a coin toss, I would put my money on Alden not surviving.
Well, I've been hearing that everybody's rumoring it, but I'm thinking because they haven't had a major death in a while on the good side. Yeah, we got Alpha, but we didn't get a major death. Maybe Sadiq. That was the only thing that we got, but we never saw anything savage on our end. So I was thinking, who else could they just dispose of? But I don't know. Yeah, that was my thought on that one. My other points would be, I think Rosita will be getting bit somehow, and Father Gabriel will have to put her down. Very reminiscent of the comic when Andrea got bit while on her horse helping people out to stop the Zeds when they were going after Alexandria at that time. And but in the comic, Andrea is slowly dying and everybody comes to her bedside. And then Rick has to finally put her down. I think that's the tragic part of what we're going to see towards the end. And obviously we know that Kristen Serratos is probably going to be leaving because she's doing Salinas. So basically, we already mentioned it with the princess, the princess was found in Pittsburgh in the comic book. And she states it in the comic that, but it's to Michonne, Eugene, and Yumiko at that point. And those are the people that meet her. So they basically swept out Michonne for King E, which made sense. Mm-hmm. And then obviously, the show is there, like you said before, Brian, it's in Charleston, West Virginia.
Yes. And I looked it up, and they're 153,000 according to the last census. So, yeah. So I was right on the money. I said 150. So, all right. So if that's it, let's move on to our news, ratings, and info.
There's a couple weird stories on the news.
When it comes to ratings this week, unfortunately, ratings are The Walking Dead this week got a 1.06 in the 18 to 49 with 3.264 million viewers. So, that's down from the last couple of episodes, but it's still up from the low. So it's not terrible. That is down though from 1.21 in the 18 to 49 and 3.662 million viewers last week. Talking Dead was also down. It got a 0.37 in the 18 to 49 with 1.386 million viewers, down from 0.46 and 1.486 million viewers. And I looked at that. I'm like, is that a typo? No, it's not. Exactly 100,000 viewers less. So look at that. And so you guys can see the curves there. The Parrot Analytics numbers, though, when it comes to that, Walking Dead it is back up to number 1 in the average demand expressions for the first time in a long time. It got 95.1 million average demand expressions, making it number 1 by a fairly wide margin over SpongeBob, which I still don't understand, which had 91.7 million. So yeah, it did quite well there. So that's good. And I think a lot of that has to do, of course, with the coronavirus. So many people going, coronavirus, I thought we were going to get zombies. And there's a ton of different things about that. So as far as info and news, I guess the only thing we can say as far as info, Talking Dead had Ryan Hurst and Jeffrey Dean Morgan with a little bit of extra features for Samantha Morton, because the one, episode where she died, they didn't have her on there. So, because the Talking Dead was canceled that week. So they had a little bit more about that episode. Okay, well, anyway, as far as news, though, we don't have anything bad on us, but Kyle?
Just no new updates coming out because we still are waiting on all when we're going to get the finale, when, Fear, like everything's kind of on hold. So
Fear was in the middle of shooting, so it looks like pretty much they're all stuck in Austin from what I've seen.
Jenna Elfman's home.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Yeah. I saw her on Instagram. She's home with the kids.
Well,
yes.
That was the only news. It's like the Walking Dead universe is going to be on pause for the foreseeable future after next week.
Yeah. So when did we know that the finale was canceled? Was it?
We found out last week.
Last weekend, I had messaged you guys, and you were like, "What?"
But it was after we recorded, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It came out on Monday on Twitter, and then we were recording on Tuesday, or maybe we found out before we recorded, obviously.
Yeah, it was before we recorded, I believe.
Okay. I don't remember. I haven't slept a lot, as I've said, but I don't know. It makes you wonder, though, how much they had left to do.
And if they can, because it seemed like it was in post, and so it was like...
Yeah, it's audio and FX and stuff,
Yeah, like, that's what I wonder. Is it going to be delayed weeks? Is it going to be delayed months? And for that matter, World Beyond, how many of those episodes were like ready to go and they're
pretty
stopping
much
the whole season?
Season 1 was ready to go, according to Cutlets on Twitter.
Yeah.
He commented about it saying, and then when I was at Walker Stalker, they already had like 5 or 6 episodes done. And unless they have not done all the effects for that show.
Well, that's what if it's delayed, it's probably delayed for the same reason the finale is delayed, because they have to get the visual effects done, they have to get the sound done, they have to get the music done, and that's all done in post. And like the one thing that I think I mentioned last week, I certainly mentioned it on Picard, was that the music, I think, to me, is the one thing that really gets delayed because usually they do those with 50-piece orchestras and stuff like that. And that's not going to happen right now.
Right.
they can't do a Zoom call for that.
I was paying attention to some of the music, and it sounded to me a lot more airy, more keyboard based.
Well,
and it was like something out of a horror movie, so I don't think it was more orchestrated this time in comparison to seasons past. So I think they do a mix. I'm not saying that they negate all of live music from an orchestra, but I think for the most part, I don't know if Bear McCreary is actually doing it still, but they, as far as I know, from my ears are telling me, it sounds to me like they're trying to go for that 80s feel with certain effects and sounds. These are things that could be done in a home studio if somebody has a keyboard set,
Yeah. I mean, that's true. The music may end up sounding a lot different, but I just hope that things aren't going to be delayed forever.
No. No. The fear that a lot of people in the industry are having is, if you remember the writer strike and how it affected all these shows and everything, they couldn't get them out, or certain movies were just dropped completely. And Heroes had to be dropped after, 3 seasons? And a lot of it, I was upset about that because I loved that show. But, then, people came back, and then when they brought something back, they really didn't come back to it as easily. So I just hope it doesn't hurt the series as a whole. With this whole thing. That's the only thing I'm worried about. I want to see them end this. And with AMC keep saying that they're doing the movies, they got this new show out, and then they still got Fear on the table too. Hopefully they could get the investors, or for the people who are paying for these advertisements, because that's how they're able to make these shows.
Right.
That way they could get them back on board to do this. You don't want to lose all that. And right now it's a brand name.
Right. And that's what I'm wondering. It's if it doesn't go, because I think all of us, especially because it's our own livelihoods, our own lives and this and that hopefully this doesn't go to the extreme and we're completely locked down for months.
Yeah.
But, they're having to make, decisions. And it's just for me, it's I'm hearing talk about the MLB, and don't call me on this, listeners, but it's just the fact that it's even being talked about, that it's they could just decide to scrap the NHL, obviously, because it's there's not very many games left, and it's if things, they could just say, hey, we're just not going to do the rest of the season.
It happened once before.
Yeah, and MLB could be you know what, we can't actually do this without just spilling over and just making everything. And if they just say, hey, we're just not going to do it, you look at all that repercussions. But depending on how crazy this gets, that's a possibility if they're talking about it.
Yeah.
But again, with our shows and what we look at, it's gosh, I just hope they can at least get those things finished or that are in post, and then hopefully, even if we have to kind of overlap, I don't care if I'm watching Fear and Walking Dead, the same day, as long as we can just get back to some normal, then let's just do what you got to do so we can get back to your schedules. So let's hope.
Well, the point I was making is 1994, the baseball season was cut short. They never had a World Series, nothing. And that was what's basically, before the 94 strike, I was a baseball fanatic. I watched it all the time. When it came back, I lost interest. I don't know what it was, but I went from being, a big baseball fan to someone that didn't watch it anymore. So
yeah. This pandemic is challenging everybody's norms, and things are not going to come back to the way we're used to for a while.
Unfortunately, no. All right. Well, anyway, that's it for this episode. So, Kyle, why don't you tell people how to interact with us?
Alrighty. To interact with us, we encourage you to follow us on Twitter, and you can find us at Walking Dead GSM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, and you can find us at facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadGSM. Email us at walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com. We also have a feedback form at our website, which is talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. We love voicemail, so please give us a voicemail on next week's episode. And you can call 216-232-6146 and leave us voicemail there. The deadline for the next episode is set for a regular day and time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, Tuesday, April 7th. Since this is the last episode of the season, we are going to ask you to please try to make the deadline, since it will be sometime before our next episode.
As we're saying, since we announced that we're going to do it live with you guys, that'll be Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, and check the link that we'll be giving out for the Zoom live call. So the reason why we're not giving it out right now is we don't know what that link's going to be. This will be a special Zoom link, not the one that we usually use for recording. So, and then after we're done, we'll probably throw it to keep people on for just a live, uncensored, that won't go out. So
we'll send it to Brent Spiner and the rest of the people from Next Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that seems to be doing well in this crisis is Zoom.
Yeah.
They seem to be getting all the zeitgeist. So
yeah.
And all our episodes are on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media, and remember to subscribe and click the bell to get notified when we have new videos. Those videos go out first before the podcast does. So if you want to get the first note of being able to listen to it before I can do the podcast, that is your best way.
Probably worth saying all of our new episodes. So we've got a lot of old episodes that need to go up.
Well, you don't have to put them up. That way, leave that stuff in that.
Well, from here going on forward, all of our episodes will be going to YouTube first.
Yeah. It's all part of the way we publish it. So, like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. That's one way you can leave a review for the podcast if you're not an Apple podcast person. You can leave a review for the network, not just this podcast, but also the two Star Trek ones that I do. But you can do it there. So, and one of the best ways you can support us is our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/Walking Dead Talk Through. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Steve Brown, Alex Baelish, and Lawrence Todd. And also, you can give us a review at Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. But you can also use podchaser.com. That's a place where we can get reviews there. So, because it's been a while since we've gotten anything from Apple Podcasts. So go to podchaser.com as well. And remember, when we post our stuff in the Facebook group, you can help us out by sharing those posts as well as our tweets when we post them. That way you can get it out through word of mouth, because that's one of the best ways to get new listeners. So wrapping it up, we have just finished all 10 episodes of Star Trek Picard. Talked about it earlier, but in the end, I would say it's a small L love of that. The last couple episodes we personally thought were a little disappointing. I like the last one a lot more than the second to last. Definitely worth catching, though, especially if you're a Picard or Next Gen fan. Definitely not the same as Next Gen was. Much different show, but it's worth watching. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. And you can find those episodes on the Talk Through Media website, but you can get to them right straight out by my awesome domain that I have, StarTrekPicard.com. So just go to StarTrekPicard.com and you'll be taken there. And we don't know when Star Trek Discovery is returning. I was really ticked off by CBS because they had a little trailer or teaser at the beginning of Picard last week, and it just said coming soon. I'm like, coming soon? Come on. But I think it's the same kind of thing with Discovery. They probably didn't have the all the post stuff done, post-production. But you can get to those at StarTrekDiscoveryPodcast.com, and the Facebook group for that is Facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts. And that also has a Patreon, and that's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. And our next episode is going to be covering the book, The Last Best Hope. And we're just trying to nail down a date. It's probably going to be on either the Saturday after this or the following Saturday, and we have something very special planned for that. So, Mark?
Oh, you can listen to me on Panels to Pixels on the Next Level Radio Network. Steve and I finished all of Daredevil Season 3, and we did our Superman Red Sun review. Now we're going to be doing The Witcher, and now that you guys are have all watched it, just watch it with us now, because this will be the first time. I'm actually planning on binge watching it tomorrow all day, and then I get to watch it again on Thursday before we record again. So we're doing 2 episodes at a time, so that's 10 episodes. So we got 5 episodes total that we'll be recording. And if you want to follow us on that journey, just head on over and you could go to Google Play, you could actually go to iTunes, or you could go to Spotify. You can find us there.
Nice. Yeah, we're also on Spotify too. All this podcast and the Star Trek podcast as well. So our next episode is The Walking Dead season 10, episode 15. I'll call it pseudo finale. And until we get that last episode, it's called The Tower. According to Wikipedia, anyway, it is written by Kevin Diebolt and Julia Ruckman. And according to Talking Dead, they actually had her in a little segment directed by Laura Belsey. So the description that we found from Google is the communities prepare for the final battle of the Whisperer War. Meanwhile, Eugene's group encounters Princess. I don't know if it's worth it, but the first part of it is worth it.
What?
So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mark.
And it's good to be back. And this is The Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.